Welcome to episode 9 of NECA. I only slightly want to blow my brains out.
ShinRobjira.
Today we're going to be talking about the NECA Godzilla 2014 figure, one of the few other reissues of the 2014 figure, and the poster box reissue of that 2014 figure. And since there was only one reissue of Godzilla 2014 that actually had a box worth showing, here's the box. Got this promo art for Godzilla 2014 on the front, side view, back view, side view again, top view, don't think I've done that before, bottom. Now let's crack this baby open and look at that. More orange, more destruction, Godzilla. We're done. And up first, we have the V1 2014 figure, which is my second NECA figure that I ever bought ever. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm going to somewhat quickly go through this as efficiently as possible, because the other two versions of the figure are just a lot more interesting to look at. Not knocking it, but this guy's kind of bland. Yellow eyes, black pupils. Pupils mostly looking pretty dead on, not bad. The teeth paint is pretty decent, save for a few teeth looking more gummy than tooth, and I quite like it. Now I know from far away this guy looks like he's one singular color, that being not all that visible. But when you turn him to the front and you look on his underbelly side, you can see the presence of a bit of a tanny brown. Such a color is present on the neck, the underbelly over here, moving into the crotch and the inside of the thighs, and a bit of that is also present on the underside of the tail as well. Gonna be getting an alternating darker tone for Goji's toes and claws over here. Homie got his nails did and he be looking fierce. Girl, you look stunning. And as far as paint goes, that's pretty much it. The detail on display is fantastic, but I feel it looks a bajillion times better with a little bit more color to showcase it. The only other major color being on the inside of Godzilla's mouth, and it's like this fleshy plum purple looking color. It's nice, but yeah. Despite my comments on the figure's rather blandish nature, this was, I believe, one of our very first 2014 figures that we got. And as far as likeness goes, I mean, it looks like Godzilla 2014. It pretty much matched up to all of the trailer footage for Godzilla 2014. So a solid star for detail and half a star for paint. Not bad in any way, shape, or form, just not very eye-catching. The next two, though, oh yeah. V2 or V whatever Godzilla 2014 over here is going to feature much more color, a very nice glossy finish, and just look at how much nicer the detailing on the figure is with some color. The eyes are a little less centered this go around, I think. And the paint applications on the teeth feel a tiny bit gaudier, but it's also much more visible. Speaking of visible, look at that lovely new coloration that's gracing Godzilla's body. You can actually see the application the best on the dorsal fins over here because you can see the base color and the paint really clashing over here, and I feel that really does work for this figure. The toes are nice and glossy black, and the underbelly paint is actually discernible and I think looks pretty awesome. A bit on the messier side in some areas, sure, but I'd still take this over what we got with V1. Except for the Hubba Bubba Max on his chin over here. I just really like how the differing colors clash on the underbelly of this Goji. Again, it's a bit on the messy side, but it works. And the different skin tones going on with V2 just really work for me. And it's really nice to see some discernible differences in the color between Godzilla's skin and dorsal plates. Very nice stuff. In fact, I'd say this guy's paint job is a little bit more reminiscent of the giant NECA Godzilla 2014 figure, released around the same time as the standard V1 was. Interesting to see that the underbelly paint kind of stops right where the bendy wire tail begins, and with the bendy wire tail we only get one shade of it. Don't know why, but it's a thing. But again, I'm a sucker for this paint job. I dig it, I like it, and again, I really enjoy how it brings the details out, and oh my god, they didn't paint the undersides of Godzilla's arms. Some of the paint applications from the original release did make their way onto this guy, or maybe more so just their ideas, and I think it really came together to give us a better looking Godzilla figure. But as far as I'm concerned, he's still not quite there yet. So I'm going to give V2 2014 Goji a solid star in terms of details and another half a star in terms of paint. While it does it a lot better. And it does pop those details rather nicely. You can tell NECA were very much experimenting here. Or at least just trying to copy what they did with the big boy, which, I don't know. I can definitely see it. The blues on the big boy are definitely a little bit more vibrant from further away. But when you get nice and close, oh yeah. God, I love this thing. God, I wish his roar still worked. Seriously, I was just changing the batteries and it just stopped working. And I was ginger with this. And now for the absolute foxy grandpa of the trio, we have the reissue poster box version of Godzilla 2014. Or V3 2014, or V whatever the frig V it was at that point. With this figure, I feel the ideas of the first two original releases of Godzilla 2014 were much more realized and brought over to such a sense where this definitely feels like the perfected final form. The paint isn't as bright and he's not as glossy, but everything is still very much noticeable and the matte finish really does sell it with this guy. The details feel even more present on this guy and properly represented, and I just love the look and feel, the overall vibe of V3 2014. Gonna have those same glossy toenails moving up throughout the legs. We're going to start seeing the very even coat for the underbelly over here. And just the fact that it's on the underside of the tail. The entirety of the underside of the tail. Thank you, NECA. Goji's claws this go around aren't a glossy black. They actually kind of blend in with the rest of the figure, which is probably my least favorite part of this reissue, especially since these are nice and dark and glossy. But imagine that. As far as the intended paint job goes, I have an issue with the smallest part of the figure, which means it's not going to hurt this guy's final rating at all. Back to the underbelly talk. Looks great. Looks fantastic. NECA did it this time. I'd like to say the eyes were improved from the V2, but at least they're looking straight this time. They just don't feel fully painted. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Or maybe not. You see what I'm saying? This guy's eyes, they feel so much more fuller, while this guy's eyes feel kinda half painted. They look half painted. Yeah, dude. Maybe NECA just downsized the eye paint for this guy, just to make his eyes seem smaller. Oh yeah, that's exactly what they did. They made his eyes a lot more circular too. Do I like that? I think I do. Huh. So since we're up here at the head, let's talk about these hybrid teeth over here. They're as nicely painted as the V1. They're just as visible as the V2, just without all that gaudy globbed on paint. Good stuff there, NECA. Downside being I've got some splotches on the side of this head, and his two dorsal fins over here look like they were sanded down. But you know what? I would still call this the superior of the three. And whether intentional or otherwise, I really like that when you articulate him, under certain areas you can still see some gloss on there. Something like this was also present on the retooling of the 1985 figure. I'm not sure why it's like that, but I like that. Even if it means they took a V1 figure and then just globbed on a bunch more darker and matte paint over him, and the gloss peeking through is just left over from the original release. If that's the case, it's lazy, but it kind of just works. V3 Goj is going to get a solid star in terms of paint and detail. But who will be crowned the 2014 best? Will it be the V1 with his very bland looking paint job but decent paint applications where it counts? Will it be the V2 that decided to drastically address that by being extremely vibrant and shiny? Or will it be the V3 that just feels wholly perfected in terms of paint? V3. I do very much like that every single incarnation of Godzilla 2014 from NECA looked so different, and it made getting more than one copy feel somewhat justified and not as crazy as I used to think. I guess all I'm trying to say is, I'm happy I have three differing 2014 NECA figures that all look different from one another. But only one can make it to the articulation portion of the video, and that is V3. And don't worry, despite his roar no longer working, I will be covering the giant NECA Godzilla 2014 a little bit later in the marathon. I was originally going to do it for this video, but I have a big finale, right? So, thankfully, with Godzilla 2014 and as many different incarnations, I can easily say this is the easiest articulation section that I'll probably do with this entire marathon. I'm very happy. As demonstrated before, Godzilla's mouth can open and close like so. Head can look up that far, not too far, and look down that far, not too far. The neck can indeed swivel all the way around. No side-to-side motion as far as I could tell. And the neck can't really look up or look down that far, so that's a bit of a bummer. It's something I honestly wish they fixed when going through, what, 3 or 4 different versions of the 6-inch 2014 figure? But unfortunately, it was mostly just a paint change. There will be a minimal ab crunch at Goji's torso over here. Can look forward that far, can look back up that far, not too far. You can indeed swivel all the way around at the torso. Arms can move up about that far. Both can swivel all the way around with no issue. We'll get a nice bend in at the elbow over here and a bend out. You'll get a nice swivel at the elbow as well. Now for these wrists. I could have sworn at least this guy had a hinge at the wrist, but he doesn't. Just a swivel at the wrist. Be careful with those nails. They are very sharp. And a light up and down motion at the wrist. It's Apollo Goji. I want you! And from the front, this is what that up and down motion at the wrist is going to look like. And obviously, you'll get a nice little side to side motion there as well. Nothing crazy. And now for the legs, which don't make me want to die. Check it out, fam. Full rotation at the hips over here. Gonna get a lovely bend at the knee and a lovely bend out at the knee as well. You ready? And a fantastic swivel at the knee as well. Holy God. And we're gonna get a nice swivel at the ankle over here. Foot can point up about that far and then extend down about that far with some nice pivotal actions over here. Oh yeah, the thighs can move in and out. It's not the greatest movement and they don't move out too wide, but if you move him out as far as they can really go and then put him down, he will hold the pose, so yeah. Fantastic. And now for this tail. Ball joint here, ball joint here, ball joint here, and a ball joint right here. Does that properly translate into a perfect side-to-side motion? No, not really. But they can all make a full rotation, so there is that. Yeah, the side-to-side motions on this tail can be a little here nor there, but it is possible to get a curve out of it. The best ball joint being at the bendy wire portion of the tail over here, because it's just much more free. And as you can see, beyond these 3 segmented joints, this entire portion of the tail will have bendy wire, except for right here. Now, the tail didn't fall off. I just took it off because it's a lot easier to work with this bendy wire when it's not attached to a friggin' figure, because it is stiff. But yeah, just look at that bend. Yes. Get that guy back on there, get as much of an angle out of the 3 ball joints as possible, and you'll get a lovely curved pose out of Goji, which isn't seamless, but is nice. V3 2014 is going to get a solid star in terms of articulation, as will his V1 and V question mark brethren. They're all a joy to pose. The only time I really feel pain posing this guy is when I grip him from the top over here, and those dorsal fins and bumps just... ow, not fun. Now it's time for some size comparisons and B-roll footage. Take it away, Other Rob. It blows my mind that we're just a year away from Godzilla 2014 being 10 years old. This was the hypest of the hype shit at that point in time. And getting brand new Godzilla merch from Bandai America, Bandai Japan, NECA, it was a fantastic time to be waking up in the Godzilla fandom. And what I really love is that with every reissue of this figure, we kind of got a different evolutionary take from NECA. The original being kind of dark and murky, kind of like the movie itself. The second one being a little bit more colorful and vibrant, and then the final one being near point A to point B status of what we saw in the film. Not that we could tell. And every time I look at these figures, I just get so very upset because we were gonna get an Atomic Blast version of this thing, and Toho apparently said no. Damn you, Toho. I wanted my NECA Marvel Godzilla figure, you jerks. I know for a lot of fans, NECA was their first Godzilla figure provider, essentially, and I know a lot of people follow the line up until the very end simply because of this figure right here. So he's a bit of a legacy release at this point. I mean, damn, he's almost 10 years old! I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. And I do believe this was the last reissue released before the license went fully kaput with NECA. I don't know, that's somewhat of an emotional take right there. But anyway, I have been ShinRobjira. I do so hope you all enjoyed this triple review. Tried not to make it too long. And when next we meet, I'm taking a break from NECAthon. I need me a good week or two away from NECA Godzilla figures just to get nice and rejuvenated and be ready to talk about, quite possibly, the biggest fucking headache of this goddamn line. Hello, old friend. Hello, new friend.